Your parents could buy a house on a factory wage. You make $100,000 and can barely afford rent. Here's the real inflation rate they aren't telling you, and why a six-figure salary doesn't mean what it used to. $100,000 sounds like a lot of money. In your head, it still carries this weight, this status, this feeling of having made it. Because culturally, we still think of six figures the way our parents did in 1980. Like you've crossed into wealthy territory. But the brutal truth is this. In most American cities today, $100,000 is barely middle class. Sometimes it's not even that. After taxes, you're taking home around $70,000. After rent in any major city, you've got maybe $40,000 left for everything else. That's $3,300 a month to cover food, transportation, insurance, utilities, savings, and any kind of life outside survival mode. Groceries alone are $600 to $800 a month now. A car payment and insurance, another $600. Gas, $200. Student loans, health insurance, phone bill, internet, subscriptions. Everything is more expensive, and nothing optional actually feels optional anymore. You look at your bank account at the end of the month and wonder where the hell all that money went. Meanwhile, your parents made $50,000 in 1985 and bought a house, raised kids, took vacations, and retired with pensions. Wages have increased about 50% in 40 years. Housing costs have increased 300%. Education, 400%. Healthcare, even worse. The official inflation rate says 3%. Your actual lived experience says everything costs twice what it did 5 years ago. That's because the inflation calculation is rigged. It measures the cost of eggs and gasoline, but not the cost of actually living a life. They don't adequately factor in housing, which is the single biggest expense for most people, and has become completely detached from reality. A house that cost $80,000 in 1980 now costs $400,000. But salaries haven't quintupled. They've barely doubled. Your parents needed 3 years of income to buy a house. You need 7 to 10 years of income for the same house in the same neighborhood. And if you can't buy, you rent. Which means you're paying your landlord's mortgage plus their profit margin with zero equity building for yourself. Every month, $2,000 disappears into rent. $24,000 a year in wealth transfer from you to someone who already owns property. Meanwhile, you're trying to save for a down payment, which in most markets means you need $80,000 just for the privilege of taking on debt. If you save $500 a month, which feels impossible, that's 13 years before you can even think about buying. Except housing prices increase faster than you can save, so the finish line keeps moving further away the closer you get. This is the trap. You're doing everything right. Good job, six-figure salary, living frugally, and still falling behind. And older generations look at you and say you're entitled, that you need to work harder, that they had it tough too. But they bought their first house on a single income from an entry-level job. You can't do that making $100,000 with a master's degree. Speaking of education, they paid $3,000 a year for college. You paid $50,000 a year and graduated with debt that'll take decades to clear. That student loan payment alone is what kills you. Another $400 to $800 every month that's just gone before you even start living. Money that should be going into investments, building wealth, securing your future, it's going to pay off loans for an education that doesn't even guarantee a good job anymore. You spent $100,000 getting qualified for a job that pays $60,000. The math doesn't math. Then there's healthcare. Your premium is $300 a month, and you still have a $5,000 deductible before insurance actually pays anything. One unexpected medical issue and suddenly you're $10,000 in the hole, despite having insurance and doing everything right. Every system is designed to extract maximum money while providing minimum security. You're always one emergency away from financial disaster. The social contract our parents had is completely broken. Pensions are gone. Housing is unaffordable. Education is a debt trap. Healthcare is a lottery. Meanwhile, productivity has skyrocketed. You're doing the work of 3 people because of technology, but you're not getting paid for 3 people. Worker productivity has increased 70% since the 70s. Wages, adjusted for inflation, have been essentially flat. All that extra value you're creating is going somewhere, just not to you. It's going to shareholders and executive compensation packages. In 1970, the average CEO made 30 times what their workers made. Now it's 350 times. You're told to be grateful for your six-figure salary while entry-level jobs require 5 years of experience and pay $45,000. You grew up being told that if you worked hard, got good grades, went to college, you'd have a comfortable life. But you did all that, and comfortable feels impossible. You're not building wealth, you're just trying not to fall behind. Retirement calculators say you need $2 million to retire. You have $8,000 saved and you're 35 years old. Social Security probably won't exist in its current form by the time you retire. At least not with enough to actually live on. So you're stuck choosing between saving for retirement or saving for a house. You can't do both, so you're probably doing neither adequately. The psychological weight of this is crushing. You make good money and still feel broke. You work hard and still feel behind. And nobody talks about it because we've been taught that if you're struggling financially, it's a personal failure. So everyone pretends they're doing fine while privately panicking about how they'll ever actually build a life. Marriage delayed, kids delayed or skipped entirely, home ownership a fantasy, retirement uncertain. This is the new normal for six-figure earners. Your parents at 30 owned a home and had 2 kids. You at 30 have roommates and can't afford to think about kids. Raising a kid costs $300,000. That's not a choice. That's a luxury you literally can't afford. Even small things add up in ways that feel impossible to escape. Streaming services, software subscriptions, everything is a monthly fee now. Nothing costs a lot individually, but collectively you're bleeding $200 a month to subscriptions you barely use but can't cancel. And they make canceling so difficult that the path of least resistance is just to keep paying. This is by design. The entire economic system has been restructured to extract wealth from the middle class upward. Corporate taxes have dropped. Taxes on the wealthy have dropped. Your effective tax rate as a six-figure earner is probably higher than billionaires pay. You pay 30%, they pay 8%. You work for your money, their money works for them. The game is rigged. Your parents' generation at 40 had an average net worth of $200,000. Your generation at 40 has $60,000. They had assets. You have debt. They had security. You have anxiety. They had pensions. You have hope that maybe crypto works out. And that's the saddest part. People with good jobs and good incomes are gambling on meme stocks because that feels more realistic than traditional wealth building. Because the traditional path is broken. The ladder had rungs removed and nobody told you. The people who made it up before the rungs were removed tell you to just climb harder. So what do? Do you just accept that 100,000 is the new 50,000 and adjust your expectations downward forever? Do you accept that you'll never have what your parents had? That downward mobility is just your generation's destiny? Or do you get ruthlessly strategic about the resources you do have and play a different game than the one you were told to play? Because the old playbook doesn't work anymore. Get a degree, get a job, save in your 401k, buy a house. That's a losing strategy now. The new playbook is different. It's remote work and geographic arbitrage. It's side income and investment income. It's learning tax strategy and asset protection. It's realizing that making 100,000 in San Francisco means poverty, but 100,000 in Columbus means stability. It's understanding that your salary isn't the problem. It's where you're trying to live that salary. 100,000 in a low-cost area actually can build wealth. 100,000 in a high-cost area is just expensive survival. This isn't giving up. This is adapting to reality instead of pretending the old rules still apply. The system changed. The rules changed. The outcomes changed. If you keep playing by old rules, you'll keep losing. Your 100,000 is worth 50,000 in purchasing power compared to your parents' economy. That's not your fault. But how you respond to that reality is entirely in your control. You can complain about it, or you can adapt to it. You're not a victim. You're a player in a rigged game who now understands the rules well enough to find the exploits. 100,000 isn't what it used to be, but it's still enough to build something if you're smart about it. The question is whether you'll keep pretending the old playbook works, or whether you'll write a new one. Play accordingly.